If someone walked up to you on the street and told you they could grant you all the possible knowledge in the universe, would you accept? Would you carry the burden of knowing every state of every molecule, knowing every mugging that happens on every street corner, every day of every year, for all of time? Would you turn it down and live in ignorance of every life you could save if you only knew it was in danger? Every heinous deed committed in the dark, every injustice thwartable, if you had just said yes. The game Death and Taxes puts you in the shoes of a grim reaper working in an office. Your boss is a human-like being named Fate. Presented with minimally detailed profiles on humans, you must decide if this human should live or die. You're also given somewhat vague instructions or criteria in which to make your decisions. There was also a phone on your desk that would ding at the beginning of every day. Upon clicking on it, you'd be greeted by the news following your previous choices. Power vacuums opened up, good people thrived, and bad people thrived too. Some good people and some bad people died too. The game is based on the concept that people die, and that's okay. Or at least I think that's what it's based on. See, after playing the game for about half an hour, I started to become desensitized to the whole experience. At first I tried my best to make the best choices I could, within the confines of the criteria I was given. Read every profile meticulously, then go back through and click the live or die button at my own discretion. I was judge, jury, and essentially executioner. Upon the start of the next day, I'd read the news and see the results of my escapades. However, once about 2 weeks of in-game days went by, I stopped reading the news. I stopped reading the profiles as meticulously. I just read the usually damagingly simplistic occupation section, boiling down individuals into what they do and who they can harm or help. Oftentimes following the criteria too closely, giving very little of my own autonomy to the task. I actively chose not to know. By the end of my first and at this time only playthrough, humanity had gone extinct, except for one individual. But I had not seen this coming until it was too late. I did my due diligence until I had destroyed everything. Seeing that my actions had caused this horrendous outcome, I performed a single act of defiance. On the last profile, a single human, alone, doomed to die. My cursor hovered over the live button. Maybe this would fix things. Maybe it would just doom this human to be immortal with no one to enjoy his eternal life with. Maybe, despite my efforts, he would still die eventually. Perhaps I was just delaying the inevitable. Perhaps I was simply in denial that I had been in denial this whole time. Denial is a river in Egypt sounds like a banger pop punk song. Too bad whoever writes that song is going to either fuck their fans or diddle kids. In August of 2015, my mom, shut up, took me to a Coheed and Cambria concert. 2 bands opened for them, Glassjaw and I the Mighty. I remember feeling underwhelmed about Glassjaw, but held some appreciation for I the Mighty. They quickly entered my top 10 favorite bands, which was topped by, of course, Coheed. I listened to much of their back catalog and excitedly listened to their 2017 album, Where the Mind Wants to Go / Where You Let It Go when it came out, and was excited for what they were going to do next. However, as the years went on, I more or less forgot about them, until around the end of 2022, when on a whim I looked them up, as it had been 5 years since their last album. And as it turns out, there was a good reason they had stopped making music. The lead singer, Brent Walsh, was being faced with sexual assault allegations. The victim spoke out on July 23, 2020 about an incident that occurred in 2015 while I the Mighty was on tour. The same tour I saw them on. I imagine. I can't be sure. I won't go into the details of her story, not only because it's not my place, but also because I can't bring myself to read it. All I know is that I the Mighty is on indefinite hiatus. Essentially, the band broke up because of this and likely won't be getting back together. But now I am faced with the question, should I allow myself to continue listening to their music? From a personal, moral position, and from a perspective on the moral obligation to not fund Brent Walsh in any way. On the topic of sex offenders whose last albums released in 2017, let's talk about another band, Brand New. Brand New had been around for far longer than I the Mighty, releasing their first album in 2001, the year I was born. They also formed in my hometown. Fucking wonderful. 15 years prior to the allegations against frontman Jesse Lacey, he solicited pornographic images from two women who were then underage, and Lacey was 24. His band disbanded in 2018, which is unfortunately 3 years before I started listening to them. It took me an upsettingly long time to realize that the singer was a piece of shit. And it sucks, because I actually really liked their music. I mean, sure, there were really only 1 or 2 songs that I really liked, but still, I listened to them enough times that there had to be some amount of minuscule yet measurable financial gain. This is an instance where I don't know if I should be glad that I know. In 1997, a dumb British woman wrote a shitty kid's book about a dumb white kid who became the shining beacon of a society where people with big noses were subservient. This dumb white kid got everything handed to him, and was told he had to kill some other kid that wanted things to change, but everyone shunned him so he went crazy and lost his nose or something. By the way, this dumb British woman thinks trans people should be eradicated. Also, she's rich, and is lobbying the UK government to do her bidding. That's right, it's J.K. Rowling, and the flaming dumpster fire of a franchise most people are too dumb to hate, Harry Potter. Can you tell that I hate Harry Potter? In February, the most frustratingly mediocre open-world game ever was released, Hogwarts Legacy, a dumb cash grab for J.K. Rowling to get a few more million pounds in it so she can peddle her transphobic bullshit even more. And guess what? We'll keep on giving her money, cause she did something no one else has ever done. She wrote a shitty fanfiction, taking every possible fantasy trope and creating an incoherent Frankenstein out of all of it. Then gracefully ripping the spine out of Star Wars like in Mortal Kombat, and stitching it into her disgusting blob monster straight out of Inside. She sold it to millions of people around the world. Most of them are neurodivergent people who just wanted a world to get lost in. Too bad that same world would eat them up and spit them out, piss on their decaying corpse, and call it a fundraiser supporting the marginalized group that is stupid, entitled white people. Or maybe we'll keep on giving her money because it's easy to not give a shit about people that don't have a voice. Are there any trans people in government anywhere? Are there any trans people that find themselves with a ridiculous amount of power, like British Marjorie Taylor Greene does? No. So it's easy to not listen to them, tell them to shut up and play your silly little game about using magical powers to pound people into the ground repeatedly until they stop moving. Oh, when a wizard game does it, it's fine. It's nice. Family tea for teen fun, but when I do it in VR, I'm unhinged. I'm stressed, okay? I just need to get this out. See, this is the problem I have with people that played Hogwarts Legacy. You knew. If you were on a TikTok at all when the game was coming out, you knew. You didn't have a choice to not know, you knew. And you chose to do nothing with knowing. I didn't know about I the Mighty or Brand New. But when I did know, I did what I could about it. I refused to be part of those enabling this kind of behavior. I saw an injustice maybe not thwartable, but possibly in small part able to be penalized. The women that were harmed by Brent Walsh and Jesse Lacey, it seems, are unable to seek their own justice via the law. Maybe they don't have the money to seek out lawyers to press charges. Perhaps they know that they wouldn't have enough evidence to prove their cases. Perhaps they know that since they were born female, nobody with sufficient power would believe them. But guess who has sufficient power? Everyone. Collectively. We choose where our attention and money goes. We choose who we put on pedestals and who we idolize, who we grant power to. So in the case of Brent Walsh and Jesse Lacey, we chose to provide them with power no more, or maybe they chose not to accept it, or both. The concept of cancel culture is an endlessly important tool for the people to wield. The government reserves the right to, quote-unquote, cancel its own representatives if it so chooses, through impeachments and the like. Why can't society do the same with those it calls celebrities? I wish I could go into more detail regarding my very personal experiences with someone who I honestly wish I knew less. Someone who's wronged me, and as far as I can tell, pretty much everyone else they've come into contact with. It's almost kind of sad how alone this person must feel, when in fact, they put themselves there. I feel no remorse in my hatred. And that's all I'm going to say about that. On a ranch somewhere lives a farmer who loves the sky during the day and the stars during the night. He tends to many animals, but most of all pigs. There are small moments where he feels remorseful for their boring and otherwise meaningless lives, only there to be fattened up to be eaten by someone somewhere. It brings him great sorrow that they cannot enjoy the sky and the stars the way he can. They are unable to look up, only forward. So one day he decides to give a pig the greatest gift he can give, a chance to glance up at the sky and appreciate it. He wraps his arms around the pig's round body and lifts it up with great effort. Its eyes facing up toward the sky, it begins to squeal, but not with happiness or joy or amazement, but with discomfort and fear, anguish. The farmer lets the pig down and it scurries away. Is it the farmer's place to bestow knowing onto these creatures? Is it anyone's place to decide anyone's knowing? Is it yours to decide your own? When given the option, would you choose to be blissfully ignorant or painfully aware? To be at ease with the world that is you, or to be in turmoil with the universe that is everyone? I'm not religious or particularly spiritual. I choose to concern myself with the reality that is in front of me and not the imagination of those beyond it. I'm not conservative in my beliefs, I'd say I'm rather liberal. I refuse to live in the bubble of fear and convenient nostalgia of the good old days, and instead, I choose to know of the pain of those I don't relate to and feel that pain right alongside them. If someone walked up to me on the street and told me they could grant me all the possible knowledge in the universe, I don't know what I would say. Maybe I'd say yes and carry the burden of knowing everything and only being able to change a small fraction of it. Maybe I'd say no and write a video about it in my local Starbucks. Maybe instead I'd walk down the street and stop at the first person I see suffering. I'd ask them what's wrong, ask them to tell me their story. Maybe I'd relate, and maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I could help them, but probably not. But if I never ask and they never tell, then nothing will change. My parents are recovering alcoholics. They both went through AA and have relayed some wisdom down to me. To change things in myself, you must go through 3 simple steps. You must become aware of the problem. You must become willing to change it. And finally, you must perform the change. You must ask, you must tell, and you must change. Don't pick up the pigs. But you are well within your right and moral obligation to pick up yourself.